Kate Wilson adjusted her simple blue suit as the Draconian shuttle landed on the White House lawn. She took a deep breath, reminding herself of her mission. Appear weak, gather information, buy time. Behind her stood 5 other delegates, including Dr. Olivia Wright and Paul Rodriguez, a covert operations specialist disguised as a cultural advisor. The world watched via satellite feeds as the shuttle's door opened with a hiss of steam. 3 Draconians emerged. Their scales shimmered in Earth's sunlight, bodies tall and powerful. They wore armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal. The leader, distinguished by red markings on his neck crest, surveyed the humans with yellow eyes. "I am High Captain Zalvex," he announced. "You will come with us now." Inside the Pentagon's underground command center, Admiral Scott Daniels watched, the broadcast alongside Commander Mason. "Operation Sleeping Giant is proceeding," Mason reported. 70% of our hidden satellites are now active but running silent. "And the quantum team?" Daniels asked. Lisa Chen reports they're close to breaking into the Draconian communications network. They've identified patterns in their transmission encryption. On a different screen, technicians worked around a strange device that had been hidden beneath the Antarctic ice for 15 years. Salvaged technology from a crashed alien scout ship that had gone unreported to the public. "Sir?" called a young officer. "We're detecting energy readings from the Draconian fleet. They're scanning our military installations." "Let them look," Daniels said calmly. "They'll only see what we want them to see." Aboard the Draconian flagship, Kate Wilson and her team were escorted through corridors lined with armed guards. The ship was vast, its interior warm and humid. "Your world's military capabilities are primitive," Zalvex commented as they walked. "Your nuclear weapons cannot penetrate our shields. Why do you resist the inevitable?" Kate smiled diplomatically. "Our species values its independence, Captain, and we're curious about yours. We have much to learn from each other." They entered a grand chamber where Commander Vexthal waited on a raised platform. His scales were darker than the others, almost black along his spine. He studied the humans with obvious contempt. "So these are Earth's representatives," he said. "I expected your world leaders." "They sent us with full authority to negotiate," Kate replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Paul Rodriguez scanned the room discreetly, noting security positions and technology. His eyes flickered to a control panel, memorizing its layout. The device hidden in his watch was collecting data on the ship's electromagnetic signatures. "Negotiation implies you have leverage," Vexthal said with a hiss that might have been laughter. "You do not." Dr. Wright stepped forward. "Perhaps we could begin by learning about each other's biology. Our species has never encountered reptilian sentience before." Her request was calculated. Every word exchanged was being analyzed back on Earth, providing crucial information about Draconian language patterns and thought processes. Zalvex seemed intrigued. "Commander, the biological exchange could prove useful for our integration protocols." Vexthal waved a clawed hand in permission. "Proceed. It matters little what they learn now." Miles beneath the Nevada desert, Lisa Chen typed furiously at her workstation. Surrounding her, 30 of the world's best programmers and quantum computing specialists worked with technology that officially didn't exist. "I'm in," she whispered as her screen filled with alien text that began transforming into English. "Their network architecture it's beautiful, but it has weaknesses they never anticipated." She connected her system to a quantum processor that began mapping the Draconian fleet's communications. Each ship's position, shield status, and weapons systems slowly appeared on the main display. "They're planning landing sites," called out a technician. "First wave targeted at unpopulated areas, then major cities." Lisa nodded. "And now we know exactly where they'll be." At United Nations headquarters, representatives from all nations gathered in unprecedented unity. Historical enemies sat side by side, sharing intelligence and resources. "The Chinese space program has activated its defense grid," announced the Chinese representative. "It remains undetected by the alien fleet." "India's quantum communications array is fully operational," added another diplomat. We can coordinate globally without their knowledge. Back on the Draconian flagship, Kate Wilson maintained her diplomatic smile as Commander Vexthul outlined his terms for Earth's surrender. Your nations will dissolve. Resources will be allocated according to Draconian needs. Humans will be permitted limited self-governance under our supervision. And if we refuse? Kate asked. Vexthul's mouth stretched in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Then we demonstrate our power on one of your cities. Perhaps this. New York? Paul Rodriguez tensed but maintained his passive expression. The threat confirmed their suspicions about Draconian tactics. That would be unfortunate, Kate replied, especially since Earth has many unique resources that cooperative arrangements would better preserve. Such as? Zalvex inquired. Our biological diversity, for one, Dr. Wright interjected. Earth has evolved organisms unlike any in the galaxy. Some might be valuable for medical applications. This was part of their strategy. Highlight Earth's biological uniqueness while downplaying technological capabilities. Meanwhile, in orbit, above Earth, Draconian scanner crews reported their findings to High Captain Zalvex via secure channels. The humans possess approximately 3,000 nuclear weapons, primitive space stations, and rudimentary satellite technology, reported a technical officer. Their energy production relies primarily on fossil fuels and basic fission reactors. What the scanners failed to detect were the advanced facilities hidden deep underground, the quantum-shielded satellites disguised as space debris, and the energy weapons concealed within ordinary-looking weather stations around the globe. Zalvex frowned at the reports. Their technological development is uneven. They achieved spaceflight only recently yet have sophisticated computer systems. Their cultural transmission signals show they understand the concepts of interstellar travel and advanced weaponry, added another officer. Yet they possess neither. They are dreamers with limited capabilities. Vexthul dismissed from his command chair. Prepare the landing craft. We begin deployment in 6 Earth hours. Unknown to the Draconians, every word was being transmitted back to Earth through the quantum receiver hidden in Paul Rodriguez's watch. In the Pentagon Command Center, Commander Mason watched the planetary defense grid slowly coming online, hidden from Draconian sensors. They've taken the bait, he told Admiral Daniels. They see exactly what we want them to see. Daniels nodded grimly. Then we continue the deception. All units maintain sleeping giant protocols. As Kate Wilson and her team returned to Earth in the Draconian shuttle, she gazed up at the massive ships looming in the sky. The Draconian fleet believed they faced a primitive, helpless world ripe for conquest. They would never know what hit them. The massive Draconian warship emerged from the starry void, its scaled hull gleaming under Earth's sun. Behind it, dozens more ships appeared, forming a crescent above the blue planet. Commander Vexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, his reptilian eyes narrowing as he studied the viewscreen. The primitive world looked peaceful, unaware of the storm about to break over it. Activate cloaking systems, Vexthul ordered, his voice a dry rasp. Let us observe before we strike. The Draconian Confederacy had conquered 17 worlds in the past decade. Each victory had been easier than the last, with Vexthul's reputation growing with every success. When their long-range sensors detected radio signals from this isolated system, the Empress herself had assigned him the honor of bringing these humans into the fold. Scans complete, Commander, reported his science officer. Primitive nuclear fission technology, limited orbital capabilities, military systems reliant on chemical propellants, and basic electronics. Vexthul flicked his tongue in satisfaction. Another simple harvest, then. On Earth at NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station in Nevada, John Simmons stared at his screen in confusion. For a brief moment, something massive had appeared at the edge of their detection range, then vanished. He reached for his coffee, wondering if he needed more sleep. Then his instrument screamed with activity. "Sir," John called to his supervisor, "multiple objects just appeared in orbit. They're huge." Within hours, the world's astronomers confirmed the impossible truth. An alien fleet had appeared in Earth's orbit. News spread like wildfire. People poured into streets, staring up at the sky where faint shapes could be seen moving against the clouds. In Washington, D.C., Commander Eric Mason rushed through the Pentagon corridors. At 42, he'd spent his career preparing for a day he secretly hoped would never come. The Space Force had been his life, but actual aliens, that was supposed to stay in the movies. Commander Mason, General Wallace greeted him, face grim. It's happening. Inside the crisis room, screens showed the alien vessels from various telescopes around the world. Military leaders from a dozen countries joined via secure video. What do we know? Mason asked. A woman stepped forward. Dr. Olivia Wright had been the foremost xenobiologist in the world. Despite most people thinking her field was purely theoretical. They're called Draconians, she said. We've intercepted some of their communications. They're reptilian, possibly cold-blooded, with a rigid social hierarchy. Hostile? Someone asked. Before she could answer, every screen in the room changed. A reptilian face appeared, scales gleaming green and gold, eyes like yellow lanterns. People of Earth. The creature spoke in perfect English. I am Commander Vex Thul of the Draconian Confederacy. Your world is now under our protection. Surrender your governments within 24 Earth hours, or face the consequences of resistance. The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Well, Mason said dryly, I think that answers the hostile question. Across the world, similar scenes played out. The alien message broadcast on every frequency, in every language. Panic erupted in major cities. Religious leaders called for prayer. Military forces went to high alert. In the White House Situation Room, President Williams assembled her crisis team. Options, people. I need options. Lieutenant Kelsey Adams, a tactical officer recently assigned to the Space Force, raised her hand. Madam President, we should consider Project Artemis. The room went silent. Project Artemis was classified beyond top secret, a defensive system developed after a previous, unreported alien encounter in 2029. That's not public knowledge. Lieutenant, the President said carefully. With respect, Madam President, it needs to be now, at least among this group. Adams looked around the room. We're not as helpless as the Draconians think. On the Draconian flagship, Vex Thul received the first reports with satisfaction. The human world had erupted in predictable chaos. Their primitive weapon systems had activated but posed no threat to his shielded fleet. Shall we begin landing procedures, Commander? Asked his second-in-command. Not yet, Vex Thul replied. Let them stew in fear. It makes the conquest easier. When hope dies first. A junior officer approached, saluting with a closed fist to chest. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the humans. Vex Thul raised a scaled eyebrow ridge. Already surrendering? Put it through. The view screen showed a human female in formal attire. Commander Vex Thul, I am President Williams of the United States, speaking on behalf of Earth's United Nations. We request a negotiation period before any action is taken. Vex Thul hissed in amusement. Negotiations? Your world has nothing to offer but submission. Perhaps, the human said calmly. But is there harm in conversation? Our species has never encountered beings like yourselves. This is a historic moment. Something in her composure disturbed Vex Thul, though he couldn't place why. These humans should be panicking, begging. Her dignity seemed inappropriate. You have 12 hours to prepare your representatives, he said finally. They will be brought aboard my vessel. As the transmission ended, his intelligence officer, High Captain Zalvex, approached. Commander, something isn't right. Their military response is too coordinated for a species supposedly encountering aliens for the first time. Vex Thul dismissed the concern with a wave. They're putting on a brave face. Scan deeper for their weapon systems. Back on Earth, in an underground facility beneath Nevada's desert, Dr. Olivia Wright analyzed the transmission data. Their biology is fascinating, she told Commander Mason as they hurried down a corridor. Their respiratory system has unique vulnerabilities, and their technology, while advanced, uses quantum principles we've actually moved beyond. Mason looked surprised. You're saying we're ahead of them in some areas? Not exactly, But our approaches are different. They've never encountered our specific technological path. It might give us an edge. They entered a vast chamber where technical teams worked frantically around a massive holographic display of Earth and the alien fleet. Operation Sleeping Giant is in effect, announced General Wallace to the assembled leaders. All nations have agreed to the protocol. Mason nodded grimly. It was a dangerous gamble, but their only chance. The world would present itself as technologically inferior while secretly activating defense systems the Draconians couldn't detect. What about the diplomatic team? Mason asked. Being assembled now, answered a woman stepping forward. Kate Wilson from the Diplomatic Corps had negotiated some of Earth's toughest international treaties. I'll be leading it. It's a risk, Mason warned. Kate's expression was determined. Someone needs to look those lizards in the eye while you work your magic, Commander. As dawn broke over Earth the next day, the Draconian fleet remained in orbit, their massive shapes visible as dark spots crossing the sun. In homes and shelters, humans watched the skies with fear and defiance. Aboard the flagship, Vexthul prepared to receive the human delegates, confident in his inevitable victory. The primitive Earth would soon join the growing list of worlds under Draconian control. He never suspected that below him, beneath the appearance of a vulnerable planet, humanity was awakening weapons systems beyond his imagination. The hunters were about to become the hunted. Dr. Alan Murphy removed his glasses and rubbed his tired eyes. For 15 years he had worked on Project Artemis, the network of defensive platforms disguised as ordinary satellites. Now, in an underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, he watched as his life's work came fully online. Power levels nominal, reported a technician. All platforms maintaining disguise protocols. On the main screen, dozens of innocent-looking weather and communication satellites blinked green. To Draconian sensors, they appeared primitive and harmless. In reality, each contained advanced particle weapons and shield technology. Are we certain they can't detect the energy signatures? Dr. Murphy asked. General Susan Taylor stepped up beside him. A career military officer with silver hair and sharp eyes, she had overseen Earth's secret defense preparations for over a decade. Their scanning technology works on principles different from ours, she explained. Our quantum masking is holding. They see what we want them to see. In another section of the facility, Ryan Cooper calibrated the final parameters of Athena, the artificial intelligence warfare system designed to counter alien technology. The young programmer had been recruited straight out of college after creating an algorithm that could predict and counter unknown combat strategies. How's she doing? General Taylor asked as she entered the room. Ryan's fingers flew across the keyboard. Athena is ready. She's already mapped 87% of the Draconian command protocols based on the data we intercepted. Will she be able to disrupt their systems when the time comes? Ryan nodded confidently. They won't know what hit them. Aboard the Draconian flagship, Sub-Commander Krixthar presented the invasion plan to Commander Vexthul. A holographic display showed Earth with landing zones highlighted across all continents. We begin with uninhabited areas to establish forward bases, Krixthar explained, then progress to population centers. Their military forces are concentrated here, here, and here. He pointed to North America, Europe, and Asia. Their resistance capability? Vexthul asked. Minimal. Their aircraft use combustion engines. Their ground vehicles are similarly primitive. They have some orbital weapons, but nothing that can penetrate our shields. High Captain Zalvex entered the command center, his expression troubled. Commander, I must again express my concerns. The humans' behavior doesn't match their technological level. Vexthul made a dismissive gesture. We've conquered 17 worlds, Captain. I know submission when I see it. They negotiate only to delay the inevitable. That's just it, sir. They're too calm. The diplomatic team showed no fear. False bravado, Vexthul replied. Prepare the landing craft. On Earth, Maria Sanchez worked from a secret facility beneath Mexico City, coordinating with space agencies worldwide. Her specialty was orbital kinetic weapons, essentially sophisticated versions of rocks dropped from space. These weapons required no energy signatures that might be detected, only precise positioning. Brazilian team reports ready, announced her assistant. Canadian team confirms their payload is in position. Maria studied the orbital map where dozens of seemingly random pieces of space debris were actually carefully positioned weapons, disguised as old satellites and rocket fragments. Perfect, she said. Now we wait for the signal. In Washington, D.C., Commander Eric Mason briefed the president. The Draconians are launching their first wave of landing craft in approximately 3 hours. All our systems are in place. Casualties? The president asked grimly. If we time this right, minimal. We hit them before they enter the atmosphere. The president nodded. And if we don't stop them all? Then we have ground-based defenses ready. But, Madam President, the first strike needs to be overwhelming. We need to shatter their confidence immediately. Authorized, she said simply. God help us all. Around the world, final preparations were made in secret. In Australia, engineers activated the quantum shield generator that could protect major cities. In Russia, scientists calibrated massive electromagnetic pulse weapons designed to disable draconian electronics. In laboratories across Africa, Dr. Nicole Baker's biological countermeasures, tailored to draconian physiology, were loaded into delivery systems. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, a submarine captain received encrypted orders and turned a special key. Miles below on the ocean floor, advanced weapons systems awakened after years of dormancy. As the clock ticked down, humanity waited, hidden strength coiled like a spring. Aboard the Draconian flagship, landing craft preparations were underway. Warriors in battle armor performed final equipment checks. The reptilian soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, having done this many times before. Sub-Commander Krixthar addressed the first wave leaders. The humans will likely surrender once we establish ground control. If they resist, limited force is authorized. Remember, we need their infrastructure intact. One young officer raised his hand. Sir, what about their nuclear weapons? Our shields can easily repel such primitive attacks, Krixthar assured him. And our first targets include their nuclear launch facilities. What the Draconians didn't know was that Earth's nuclear arsenal was largely a distraction, impressive looking but practically obsolete compared to the hidden weapons humanity had developed. In the Nevada Command Center, Lisa Chen continued monitoring the Draconian communications. They're moving landing craft to deployment bays, she reported. First wave targets confirmed unpopulated areas in Australia, North America, and Asia, Commander Mason nodded. Right where we predicted. Are the intercept teams in position? Yes, sir. Artemis platforms have primary targeting solutions. Kinetic weapons are positioned for secondary strikes. In his underground laboratory, Dr. Alan Murphy initiated the final activation sequence for Project Artemis. Around the Earth, disguised satellites imperceptibly shifted position, weapon systems powering up behind their camouflage. All platforms report ready, he announced. Weapons hot, awaiting command authorization. General Susan Taylor placed her palm on the biometric scanner. Authorization Taylor 97 Delta. The command system acknowledged with a soft tone. On screens around the room, targeting systems locked onto the positions where the Draconian landing craft would emerge from, their motherships. In orbit, the massive Draconian vessels began to shift position. Bay doors opened on their undersides, revealing rows of smaller craft primed for atmospheric entry. First wave launching in 5 minutes, announced Sub-Commander Krixthar. Commander Vex Thule watched with satisfaction from his command chair. Another world for the Confederacy. The Empress will be pleased. High Captain Zalvek stood silently behind him, still troubled by nagging doubts about the human's behavior. Something wasn't right, but he couldn't identify what. The scans showed a primitive world with limited defenses. Yet his instincts, honed over decades of military service, told him they were missing something important. As the first Draconian landing craft prepared to launch, Earth's hidden arsenal waited silently. The moment of truth approached. Humanity's Carefully orchestrated deception was about to give way to an explosive revelation. The hunters remained unaware they were about to become the hunted. The first wave of Draconian landing craft detached from their motherships. 300 vessels, each carrying 30 warriors, descended toward Earth's atmosphere. From his command post in orbit, Captain Frank Miller watched them approach on. Specialized screens that showed what the Draconians couldn't see. Earth's hidden defenses. "All stations report ready," his communications officer said quietly. Frank took a deep breath. He had trained 15 years for this moment since the discovery of alien signals in 2030. Now he was about to lead humanity's first interstellar battle. "Commence Operation Thunderbolt," he ordered. "Activate all Artemis platforms." Around the Earth, dozens of ordinary-looking satellites suddenly transformed. Panels slid aside, revealing advanced energy weapons. Stealth fields dropped as power surged through systems that had remained dormant for years. In an instant, Earth's orbit bristled with weapons the Draconians never knew existed. Aboard the Draconian flagship, an alarm blared. "Energy spike," called a sensor officer. "Multiple sources in orbit." Before Commander Vexthul could respond, the first Artemis platform fired. A brilliant beam of blue-white energy lanced across space, slicing through a landing craft as if it were paper. The vessel exploded, debris scattering across the void. "What was that?" Vexthul demanded, rising from his command chair. "Where did that weapon come from?" All across Earth orbit, Artemis platforms opened fire. Dozens of landing craft erupted into flames before they even reached the atmosphere. The carefully coordinated attack targeted propulsion systems and fuel cells, causing maximum damage with precision strikes. War Prince Drakmor, commander of the Draconian ground forces, watched in horror from his command vessel as his first wave was decimated. "Shields up," he bellowed. "Evasive maneuvers." But the Draconian landing craft were designed for atmospheric entry, not space combat. Their shields, configured for heat resistance, provided little protection against Earth's energy weapons. "Sir," called Zalvex on the flagship. "The humans have orbital defense systems our scans didn't detect," Vexthul hissed in anger. "Impossible. Deploy fighters. Target those weapons." As Draconian fighters scrambled to respond, Maria Sanchez gave the order from her command post beneath Mexico City. "Launch kinetic strike packages." Across Earth's orbit, what had appeared to be harmless space debris suddenly activated small thrusters. Chunks of metal, carefully positioned over the past 5 years, accelerated toward the Draconian vessels. These simple but effective weapons required no energy signatures until the moment of activation. The first kinetic projectile struck a Draconian cruiser at tremendous speed, punching through its side. 3 more hit War Prince Drakmor's flagship, crippling its engines and weapon systems. "Our shields did nothing," an officer reported in panic. "These are not primitive weapons." On Earth, Greg Holloway sat at his communications console in the Pentagon. The time for deception had ended. Now came the message that would change everything. "Broadcasting on all Draconian frequencies," he announced, then spoke clearly into his microphone. "Attention, Draconian fleet. This is Earth Defense Command. Perhaps you should have scanned deeper." The message repeated in the Draconian language, using pronunciations gleaned from their own communications. In underground bases around the world, ground-based defense systems activated. Particle beam emitters rose from hidden bunkers, targeting the few landing craft that had made it through the orbital defenses. Dr. Nicole Baker watched from her laboratory as automated systems deployed her biological countermeasures. These were non-lethal weapons designed to incapacitate rather than kill, engineered microorganisms that would attack the respiratory systems of any Draconians who reached the surface. "Release countermeasure swarms," she ordered. Small drones rose from concealed locations, ready to intercept any landing craft that made it to the lower atmosphere. Aboard the flagship, Commander Vexthul stared at his displays in disbelief. Half his landing force was destroyed, and the rest, scattered and damaged. 3 support cruisers were crippled, venting atmosphere into space. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Their technology was primitive. High Captain Zalvik stood rigidly at attention. "They deceived us, Commander. deliberately showed us what we expected to see. All vessels, attack, Vexthul ordered. Full weapons release. Destroy their orbital platforms. The remaining Draconian ships opened fire, energy weapons blazing toward Earth. But the Artemis platforms were not helpless targets. They shifted position with surprising speed, their own shields flickering as they absorbed hits. Commander Eric Mason watched the battle from the Pentagon Command Center. "Athena, time to show what you can do," he said to the AI warfare system. "Ryan." Cooper nodded and entered the final command sequence. Athena is engaging Draconian systems. Across the Draconian fleet, ship systems began failing in inexplicable ways. Weapons powered down mid-charge. Shields fluctuated. Communication systems broadcast gibberish. The sophisticated AI had infiltrated their network through weaknesses the Draconians never anticipated. "We're being hacked," called a Draconian communications officer. "Something is in our systems." One Draconian vessel, crippled by multiple hits, drifted close to Earth's atmosphere. Sergeant Amy Peterson watched it from her Special Forces dropship. "Strike team ready," she reported. "Target vessel is vulnerable." "You have green light." Commander Mason's voice came through her headset. "Capture, not destroy. We want their technology." Amy turned to her team of 12 specialized soldiers. "Helmet sealed. Remember your training. These aren't like any enemies we've faced before." Their dropship accelerated toward the damaged Draconian vessel. Using technology reverse-engineered from previous alien encounters, they attached to its hull without triggering sensors. Cutting tools sliced through the outer shell, creating an entry point. Inside the Draconian ship, confusion reigned. Systems failed inexplicably. Emergency lighting cast red shadows over panicked crew members. "Restore communications," ordered the ship's captain. "We need orders from the flagship." The first sign of intruders was a soft hissing sound. Then the human strike team was inside, moving with practiced precision through the alien corridors. Their weapons fired non-lethal electrical charges, dropping Draconian crew members before they could respond. Amy led her team toward the bridge, following schematics developed from intercepted data. Command center ahead. 3 targets. On the Draconian flagship, Commander Vexthul watched his invasion force crumble. This was a trap, he realized too late. They knew we were coming. They prepared. "Sir," Zalvex said urgently, "we should retreat and report to the Empress. This species is far more advanced than we believed." Pride warred with logic in Vexthul's mind. 17 successful conquests had made him arrogant. He had never considered that a seemingly primitive world might be hiding its true capabilities. "Order all ships to fall back to defensive positions," he finally commanded. "Recall surviving landing craft." But it was too late for many. Of the 300 landing craft that began the invasion, fewer than 50 remained operational. Amy Peterson's team had captured one Draconian vessel intact, and Earth's defenses continued to fire on the retreating aliens. As the Draconian fleet attempted to regroup, Commander Vexthul faced a horrifying truth. His mighty armada had just been outmaneuvered by a species he had dismissed as primitive. The hunters had become the hunted. 3 days after the failed invasion, the Draconian fleet hung in disarray above Earth. 60% of their vessels were disabled or destroyed. The rest maintained a defensive formation, shields constantly active against further attacks. Commander Vexthul stood before the communications screen, his proud posture now stiff with tension. "I wish to speak with your leaders," he said to the human operator. Immediately, in the White House Situation Room, President Laura Bennett watched the transmission with her advisors. At 56, she had risen through diplomatic ranks before entering politics. Now she faced humanity's greatest diplomatic challenge. "Should we agree?" asked a general. Admiral Eric Mason, newly promoted after the successful defense, nodded. "Let's hear what they have to say." "Put him through," President Bennett decided. The screen switched to a direct connection. Commander Vexthul's scaled face appeared. His yellow eyes narrowed. "This is President Laura Bennett of the United Earth Alliance. I understand you wish to speak." Vexthul hissed softly before speaking. "Your deception was impressive. You deliberately presented yourselves as primitive. We showed you what you expected to see, President Bennett replied calmly. Your Confederacy has a reputation for conquering developing worlds. We simply used that expectation against you. In orbit, Dr. William Harris watched the exchange from the International Space Station, which now revealed its true form. The research station had always been partly a cover. Beneath its ordinary exterior lay a sophisticated command center for Earth's orbital defenses. They're still dangerous, he told his staff. Keep all systems at full alert. Dr. Harris had spent his career studying potential alien civilizations. When first contact occurred in 2029, a small scout ship quickly contained and hidden from public knowledge. He had led the team analyzing their technology and culture. On the main Draconian vessel, High Captain Zalvex approached his commander. The Empress demands an update, he said quietly. Vexthal's scales darkened with stress. Tell her negotiations are ongoing. She already knows of our defeat, Zalvex replied. Our long-range communications were compromised. The humans intercepted our distress signal. On the screen, President Bennett continued, Commander Vexthal, we would like to invite you to Earth for proper diplomatic discussions. You may bring a small security team. Vexthal's surprise was evident. You would allow me on your world after our attempted invasion? We prefer peace. To war, Commander. Always have. Your arrival simply forced us to reveal capabilities we had hoped to keep hidden longer. In the Pentagon, Admiral Mason coordinated with defense forces worldwide. All systems remained at high alert despite the diplomatic overtures. Trust would take time to build. The captured Draconian vessel has yielded valuable intelligence, reported Sergeant Amy Peterson. Her uniform was new, adorned with a special insignia created for Earth's first alien contact team. Their faster-than-light communications technology is different from what we developed, but compatible. And the prisoners? Mason asked. Cooperative, sir, especially after we treated their injured. Their medical technology is actually behind ours in some respects. 24 hours later, a single Draconian shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, escorted by fighter jets. It landed at a specially prepared site in neutral Switzerland where global representatives waited. Commander Vexthal emerged with 4 guards and High Captain Zalvex. They blinked in the bright sunlight, scanning the mountains and lake with evident appreciation. Your world is beautiful, Zalvex commented as they walked toward the conference building. More diverse than most we've encountered. President Bennett greeted them at the entrance. Welcome to Earth, Commander. Inside, representatives from all major nations waited around a circular table. Dr. William Harris sat beside Admiral Mason, ready to address questions about Earth's true technological capabilities. Before we begin, President Bennett said once. Everyone was seated. I believe honesty is the foundation of any lasting relationship between our peoples. So let me be direct. Earth has been aware of alien life for decades. She nodded to an aide who activated a holographic display showing the 2029 scout ship crash. This was our first contact. There were others. Each time, we kept it secret, while developing our own technologies. We observed how the Draconian Confederacy treated developing worlds and decided to maintain appearances. Vexthal's tail twitched with agitation. You deceived the entire galactic community. We protected ourselves, Admiral Mason countered. Your own actions proved our concerns were justified. Dr. Harris stepped forward. Our technological development took a different path than most spacefaring species. While you focused on conventional energy weapons and faster-than-light travel, we developed quantum communications, biological engineering, and artificial intelligence. Vexthal processed this information slowly. His 17 previous conquests had been straightforward. Arrive, intimidate, subjugate. This situation was unprecedented. The Empress must be informed of your true status, he said finally. President Bennett nodded. We're prepared to establish proper diplomatic relations with the Draconian Confederacy, but first let's discuss the immediate situation, your damaged fleet and our terms for peace. Over the next several hours, the foundations for an historic agreement emerged. The Draconians would withdraw their remaining forces. Earth would provide limited medical assistance and repair supplies. Most importantly, Earth would be recognized as a sovereign advanced civilization, not a conquest target. As the meeting concluded, Commander Vexthul requested a private word with President Bennett. They stood by a window overlooking Lake Geneva. In 17 conquests, I never imagined this outcome, he admitted. The Empress will not be pleased. Perhaps this can become something greater than a failed conquest, Bennett suggested. A new beginning between our peoples. Later that evening, Admiral Mason accompanied Commander Vexthul to the observation deck of the now revealed True International Space Station. Earth gleamed below them, oceans and continents partly hidden by swirling clouds. For centuries we thought ourselves alone in the universe, Mason said. When we learned otherwise, we prepared silently, hoping peaceful contact would come before conflict. Yet you developed impressive weapons, Vexthul noted. We developed defenses, Mason corrected. There's a difference. Vexthul was silent for a moment, then spoke with reluctant respect. We thought we found a world of prey. Instead, we stumbled upon a planet of predators in prey's clothing. Not predators, Mason said. Protectors. There's a difference in that, too. As the damaged Draconian fleet prepared to depart Earth orbit the next day, a message arrived from the Empress herself. It was brief but clear. Commander Vexthul was to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth and sponsor their introduction to the wider galactic community. Earth had earned its place among the stars not through conquest or submission, but through ingenuity and the will to defend its freedom. The Draconian fleet that had arrived with such confidence would depart with hard-earned respect. They came to conquer a primitive world, but they never truly made it past Earth's orbit. The helpless planet had been watching the stars and preparing for longer than anyone suspected.